Hello, I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. Today, I'm going to do a pause as to the chapter that I've been working on, and the past I've been working with part 6 as for conditioned normalized victimization syndrome and conditioned normalized assholism syndrome, which we have finished up on. Now, throughout all of this, I have been discussing how people do have the capability to do things such as making choices as for what behaviors and actions they do to others. Now, I've been saying a lot of talk and not giving enough examples. I've been using examples of certain people based upon experiences. So, I actually have a new experience that I'm going to use. I'm also going to focus on myself and use myself as a guinea pig. Now, I've been talking about excuses and exceptions as well, based on also the mental health field and mental illnesses and theories versus facts. Now, are there facts out there based upon brain disorders and whatnot? Yes, such as intellectual disability. Now, my godparents' older son, the oldest one, actually has an intellectual disability. So, depending on the severity, there are, factual things showing that they don't have control over certain things. They're still able to do certain things and still learn certain things. Like the ones that have more severe cases, they aren't able to communicate effectively and aren't able to learn certain things as for being able to do that. And there are certain times that they'll, do things that are seen as abnormal compared to others, because of how their brain functions. So, I'm going to get to an example based upon this of a recent experience. Now, I'm going to use names that I'm going to make up. Let's see. The first person, the one that has agoraphobia and borderline personality disorder. I'm going to name them as Asaka. Or, you know what? I'll say Asaka. Asaka. That's easier to say and remember for me. So, Asaka. Then there will be Grumpster. And I'll be Laughaster. Laughaster. No, that's too difficult to say. Lafty. Who knows? Lafty. Okay? Or Laffy. Laffy. Okay, I'll call myself Laffy in this case. Okay, so Asaka is the one that has borderline personality disorder and agoraphobia. Now, Laffy, I have anxiety and panic disorder and PTSD. Grumpster, who knows? They're just grumpy at times. So, there is no, diagnosis or guess upon that person. Not yet, anyways. So, okay, the three of them hang out, regularly. And that's what I had been doing. Now, Asaka has tantrums and goes off at certain times and says things that are pretty cruel or, mean and just out of the blue for no reason at all, So there's Laffy and Grumpster that they're usually around. Now, one thing I noticed is that Asaka doesn't go off like that on Grumpster. So, what does that say right there? That shows that they don't have the, inability to control their feelings, since they don't treat Grumpster the same way that they do Laffy. Laffy, they'll just go off and start screaming and be demeaning or controlling and whatnot, or even make threats. So that right there proves that. Now, with the mental health field, what kind of treatment do we do? So, borderline personality disorder. Let's go off of that. Now, when you read based upon that and what they've found based on research, again, we're going to science, they will say researchers may have found that there's this possibility in the brain because this is smaller, or they say hormones or whatever, you know, may. Does that is that saying that researchers have found this as a fact? No. They say, or they think that is meaning a possibility. That doesn't mean it is absolutely factual. Do they have a scanner on the brain to examine it while that person is actually having those tantrums and just going off like that? No. So there's no facts to actually prove that person's brain is dysfunctional as to where they can't control their actions or behaviors. So I'm going to give an example of a recent incident. Okay. Laffy wanted to go to the store and go with Asuka. Now, Asuka has agoraphobia and borderline personality disorder. So, that Asuka decides that they don't want to go anymore. They wanted certain things too. So, Laffy was like, okay, so I'll see if Grumpster wants to go. Laffy goes to get Grumpster and sees if they'll take her. So she goes back to Asuka, and Asuka all of a sudden wants to go too. That's because the control. They didn't want Laffy and Grumpster to go along because she wants the control over everything. So Asuka even says that they'll drive. Yet, they have agoraphobia and they can't, go out in public that often, So while they're at the store, Asuka ends up getting done before Laffy. Grumpster stays in the car. Laffy ends up getting a phone call from Asuka yelling at her and whatnot, saying, I have agoraphobia, hurry up, and blah, 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 and yelling. Now, did Asuka have control over doing that? Is it because of them having agoraphobia? Now, this is where we're going to go to discrimination against special needs and excuses and exceptions. What does that do right there? That's putting down people who have agoraphobia. My other friend who has agoraphobia, I told them this happened, and she's like, I had that too before. I didn't treat people like that. So that's insulting to those who actually have or had that special need. And those that, currently have it, that's still insulting to those people that had that or have it. So, borderline personality disorder. Now, see, anybody can research it. So based upon my research, like I stated from the beginning, is that Asuka doesn't treat Grumpster like that. Grumpster was right there in the car with Asuka. So if they don't have control, they would have treated Grumpster the same exact way and yelled at them. So what happened next? Laffy went to the car, and Asuka actually threatened Laffy, saying, you want to ride home? Almost like they're going to just, they're threatening, saying, well, if you don't do as I say, I'm just going to leave you here with no ride home and stuck. That's abuse, using threats. Did they have control over what they're saying and doing? Now let's talk about control. I'm going to put myself on the spot. I had mentioned how I have anxiety and panic disorder. I was talking with a friend about this, and they mentioned that, you know, people can get irritable, you know, and whatnot when they have bad anxiety or even a panic disorder, you know, and they're having a panic attack or whatnot. And she is absolutely right. I get edgy when I have anxiety, bad anxiety days, or even, you know, panic, you know. So how am I gonna use myself? Now, if a person has the ability to think, they're able to make decisions, like I had mentioned in past videos. They're able to make that choice of their actions and behaviors. Like I stated when I had an argument with Grumpster one time, and I had talked to them and they mentioned how I speak to them, I admitted, I said, I'm not making any excuses or exceptions for any ill behaviors or actions I had chosen at that time. And that's a fact. Because you know what? I could still remember the whole situation. I remember what I was thinking. I remember how I was feeling. Like I stated, the mental health field should focus on feelings. So where am I going to get to that? In the mental health field, with treatment, what do? We are teaching people how to cope and deal with their feelings as a way to help with their, you know, mental disorder or illness. So, are many people able to use what they are taught and change their behaviors and actions? Yes. So where does that lead to? That means that there isn't a brain disorder. If people are capable of learning how to change their behaviors and actions and actually able to do it. So I have myself admitted that I am trying to change how I communicate with others in effective ways. And was I able to not say certain things when I had that argument? Absolutely. I'm not going to make any excuses or exceptions because I know darn well that I had the ability. Now, I'm going to give an example as to how that works in the mental health field where it can be hypocritical. Now, when we teach parents how to discipline children, one thing that we teach is when a parent is mad at their child or children, what should they do? We tell them to step away and relax if they're feeling angry at their child or children, and then to come back and talk to their child or children based upon what happened in a way that is effective in communicating, which means not demeaning, criticizing, and yelling and screaming or hitting. That's right. The same applies to the person who is angry and has racing thoughts. Now, what thoughts did I have in that incident? Let's go back to that incident. That person was yelling at me, was yelling at me all the way home, demeaning me, and even using Grumpster as a way to attack me and making up things. They were able not to do that. When we got back, they even tried to come up in my face and, you know, almost like they were giving me a threat. Now, could I have made the choice to think in my head, you know what, I'm gonna knock the crap out of this person? Yeah, you know what, that would have been easier, you know. Yeah, simple. But is that the effective way to handle a situation like that? No. And that's where I'm going to go to where self-defense comes in. Like I had stated about the walk-away method, I don't believe in that. Now, Whose responsibility is it to walk away? Whose responsibility should it be? That's where I say the flaws in the mental health field. We teach parents to walk away and calm down and get their thoughts together before communicating with their children when they're upset, when their child did something that was wrong, and goes against the rules. Whose responsibility should it be to walk away in a situation? That's right, the person that is upset. Don't make excuses and exceptions for people who choose to use abusive behaviors and actions. It shouldn't be the victim's responsibility to walk away. We should be teaching those who use abusive behaviors and actions to take responsibility for those chosen behaviors and actions. And just like with apologizing, that apology is only good if that person tries to change their behaviors and not do that again to those people that they harmed or hurt. So, what could have Laffy done? They could have kept their cool, not said anything, and let, Asuka could have let Laffy know, I'm just going to go and take a break and relax, and then apologize, for getting edgy. Before even saying any of those things, making those threats and putting down Laffy. Now, Grumpster, he took the role of my father when my mother or sister were abusing me. Many times, my father would just watch me get abused and treated badly, just like Grumpster sat there and didn't say one word when Asuka was using abusive behaviors on Laffy. So, what does that make them? That makes them an onlooker. That's right, an onlooker. Now, as I discussed with the bullying, what does an onlooker play in that situation? Do they play a part in the abuse happening and continuing? Yes, they do enable it and encourage it and support it in that way, because that's exactly what entices the abuser too, is those onlookers. So in that case, Grumpster was an onlooker because he didn't say anything in defense of Laffy when she was getting abused like that. They themselves, most likely, and I believe they do, is give Asuka excuses and exceptions because they know that she has agoraphobia and borderline personality disorder. That's what they say. Again, when people get diagnosed, is there something in there, that they do a scan on them and say, oh, they have that, you could see it right there? No. Just like I stated in other videos and topics, is that they could just, throw out these, diagnosis and say this, that, But again, therapy. What do people with borderline personality disorder get? They get therapy as to where they're taught how to cope and deal with the feelings they have. Are feelings there? Do people with borderline personality disorder get certain feelings more frequently than others that don't have that disability? Absolutely. Just like I myself have anxiety and panic issues more frequently than others. But does that give me the excuse and exception to have behaviors that are ill and harm others? No. I have control over those actions and behaviors that I choose to do, because I'm able to think while I'm having those feelings, while I'm having bad anxiety. I have bad anxiety right now. Does that mean that I have the right and should have the excuse and exception to go off on anybody that comes near me right now? Absolutely not. So it's my choice to do certain behaviors and actions. I don't have any brain damage. I'm able to make that decision as to what I do to others and how I treat them. And if I do treat people badly in bad ways, we're human. Like I said, we are human. We make mistakes. We should, what? Be the bigger person. Fear versus pride. That's right. And be the bigger person and admit, you know what? I made a mistake. I'm sorry I hurt you. And I'm sorry I did that to you. So, I had just given the example based upon me, Laffy, Asuka, who has borderline personality disorder and agoraphobia, and Grumpster. Laffy having anxiety disorder and panic disorder and PTSD, and Grumpster unknown. So, I just wanted to give an example. This time, let's just say that the guinea pig Ken got, didn't have to be the examples for this. So, based on my own personal experience that happened recently, this is just proof based upon what I've been teaching about. As for excuses and exceptions, using mental illness as though everything that they made that illness out to be is actually factual, is only many theories. Like I stated, there are facts. Like in the beginning, I had discussed intellectual disability. Yes, there are facts based upon, showing that there's brain damage or issues with the brain that causes people to do things that they can't control. But there is many theories out there that aren't factual or been proven, and they don't have no way of doing it. I mean, it's like I just stated to a friend outside, I said, they would actually have to have something on the brain while that person is doing those actions to actually see if their brain is different from somebody that doesn't have that illness. And they haven't done that. So there's, no actual proof. Remember, scientific researchers in the mental health field, think that the brain may have, this issue or that issue, and that's why this it's possible. It's not factual. May and think is not a fact. Like gravity, there's gravity. I could jump off the roof and say there's no gravity, but that's not a fact. Maybe it's a miracle that I won't land on my butt and get hurt, But there's the fact that there is gravity that they found, and that's what they use as the word to describe it. So, I just wanted to make this pause and give an example based upon what I've been teaching and what I have experienced to show how my teachings and what I have found can actually be what I say is true and more factual, and also proving how the mental health field isn't all factual and there are many theories. And also proving what I've been trying to teach is that there are many things in the mental health field that are flawed. Like I stated, how many people go to college that are in the mental health field believing everything that they read as to be completely factual, when it's many theories that people put their own personal opinions into it in order to come up with those theories and the words as to why people do this or that. And I just showed, based upon what happened to me recently, that that's not true. Because if that was true, then, like I said, Asuka would have been doing the same to Grumpster, and treating that person the same way that they were Laffy. So, now, I almost forgot one thing. Now, I also said that many people say, well, that person was abused, so that's why they're abusive too, that they're most likely to be abusive. Now, Asuka herself has gone through abuse. Does that give her an excuse or exception why she treated Laffy that way? No, absolutely not, because guess what? Laffy was abused too. But you know what? Laffy will take responsibility for her chosen behaviors and actions and knows that she has the ability to make choices as to how she treats others. So does Asuka. Because just because that person was abused doesn't give them an exception, and we shouldn't make excuses and exceptions for them to treat others in ill ways. And Grumpster was an onlooker, and that does encourage and enable the abuse to continue. And being the bigger person would mean that they would say something and let Asuka know that's not right and you shouldn't treat Laffy like that. Period. That's being the bigger person. But like I said, it's easier to be the onlooker and not say anything and enable and encourage or even engage in that abuse than it is to be the bigger person. Why? Because if Grumpster actually defended Laffy, what's the chance? Just like in the bullying Cloak Clan, if that person, the bigger person, what did I say? The chances of them becoming the victim is very high. And that's exactly the case, even in, I've proven in real life, as what people, say, or in any other situation, based upon online or in real life. This happens in real life too. That bigger person, the chances of them becoming the victim is very high. Same goes for this situation that I just gave an example of. Grumpster most likely would become the victim, as to where Asuka would attack Grumpster the way they did with Laffy. Control. Power and control. Asuka wants power and control. And yes, they do have the ability to make that choice as to wanting that and how they treat others. It's a choice. They are able and capable of controlling that, and that's proof based upon what happened to me recently. So I wanted to just pause based upon the chapter that I've been reading to go over and give an example based upon what I've been teaching, to show what I've been saying as to being pretty much true based upon the flaws and theories and making excuses and exceptions, and how mental illnesses are often exaggerated, and that's based upon theories, personal beliefs and opinions that the mental health field comes up with as to, again, possibilities. May and think is saying it's a possibility, not a fact. Not like gravity is a fact. A theory. Know the difference between a theory and a fact. So that will be it for now. I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. I'll see you next time.